Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Astrotec Vesna Evo. Well, there's actually two. There's the Vesna, which is a fixed cable version, and there's the Vesna Evo, which is a detachable cable version, which is the one over here. Okay, so um, detachable, as you can see. Oops, let me just. There you go. All right. The one thing that I say is a pity here is I actually didn't consider which is positive and which is the negative. They didn't mention that, so which way to put it in. I considered the positive to be the right hand side um, pin or hole on the actual IEM itself, and corresponding to the dot on the actual plug itself. Anyway, as for the IEMs, box, nice simple affair. Inside, IEMs came over there. Inside he has got a little bag with some tips, some carrying case with some tips. The cable is underneath the sponge there. Okay, and as I was mentioning, these are the IEMs themselves. These are bud style ones. Cable is actually quite nice. I have to admit the cable is actually quite nice. My congratulations there to Astrotec. They've actually done well. They've done a nice job there. Well, and at the end of the day, it also translates itself into the price, because the normal Vesna, so the fixed cable one, costs around $23, and this one costs around $33, $34. So I'm guessing this is the reason why. As I was saying, earbud style, these are like bud style bullets. Fit, well, look, let's be honest, it's always going to be tip dependent. Because they don't really fit very nicely. You can kind of twist the cable around your ear if you want, or just put them straight down, but they're eventually going to come off. They're not very large, they're actually quite small, but still, they're going to, the fixation of them is not the best, and thus then, noise isolation and so on and so forth will also be affected by it. The tips that they bring are not bad, they're okay. It is using a 6mm LCP diaphragm driver, and I mean, the specs are the standard ones. Let's put it that way. They've shown us, or they sent us this graph, and well, I'll show you in a minute what I mean. 30 ohm impedance. The graph, and this is what actually made me buy them, was the graph, which I found the graph very, very interesting, very kind of moondrop quarks kind of a graph. And so I went out and I bought, sorry, so I went out and I bought two pairs, like I usually like doing, because they were cheap. So let me just buy two pairs and that's it. So bought the first pair. Let me just, okay, so bought the first pair, and this is the graph that I got. So I mean, I think it speaks for itself. Rolled off bass from 100 Hz down, relatively flat all the way along here. It's got this, I don't know what is going on here, but then left and right, very different. I mean, you look at that graph and you look at this graph, and there's absolutely no similarities. I don't know what's happening there. So I decided, well, hold on. Then you get the second pair out and graph those and see how that goes. So I got the second pair out. Let me just get the first one out the way. And I graphed that one. And, well, first of all, we now have bass below 100 Hz. Maintains itself again relatively nice and flat. Nicer. The whole way graphed completely. Much nicer than the first set, and I'll just put both sets on here so you can actually, I'll put both sides on. So I mean, that's one and the other. So now you take your pick and you say which one you choose. I prefer the blue line by obvious reasons. I mean, I think you can understand why. And in terms of actually playing and listening to them, yes, the blue line does, the set that does the blue line makes more sense. I have since ordered a third pair, excuse me, and I've actually ordered the cabled one, just for the sake of seeing how it graphs as well. But I mean, this is once again one of those cases, and fair enough. I do it because I'm crazy and I'm not expecting everybody else to do it and buy multiple sets and so on and so forth. But this is just my pet peeve, and I just get so absolutely angry. I mean, you're gonna post a graph like this, and fair enough, I don't know what rig they're using, I don't know, whatever, but there has to be some coherence. You post a graph like this, and then you get that, and you start making questions. What is going on? Because this is what sold me on them. This is what sold me on them. Okay, this is what I got. And if you're lucky to get the blue line, let's say, then you're going to be happy, I'm sure. If you're unlucky to get the green line, you might be happy, depending on what your preferences are and what your style of music you're listening to and so on and so forth. But even with the green line, the channel imbalances are huge. I mean, come on, people. This might seem like a little bit here, but if you start really listening, you notice it. And what is this? I measured this side all the time, and it always came up with this. So I don't know. I guess this is a sign from the universe to tell me to just stop reviewing cheap stuff and focus more on the mid-tier and high-end stuff, because I don't know. If a brand like KZ can do it, then I'm sure that Astrotec can also do it, can kind of guarantee a more consistent quality control. Again, I say, I've got a third set on the way. I'm going to see how that comes out. But to start, not good. But anyway, it is what it is. So I decided to, and let me just put this down here again. So I decided to, let's see what, let's compare this with the competitors. The first competitor that comes to mind, obviously, and yeah, I'm sure you're going to be guessing what it is the Tanya. Okay, I've got two here, one wide bore, one narrow bore, and let's put the graph of the Tanya on. Okay, so we're going to leave this one, and we're going to put the 10-string Tanya. Let's put the wide bore. Okay, and now let's balance it out. Two, just center them nicely. There we go. Okay, so let's get to the graph here. There we go. Try and get a little bit closer. Okay, so green line, that's the Tanya. Alright, and as you can see, it's got rolled off bass from about 50 hertz down, but not really a big deal. Honestly, not really a big deal. Then they follow each other until about 2K quite nicely. The Tanya peaks at around 2.5 more or less, and then starts rolling off, and has the biggest, let's say, dip in its response at around 9-10 Ks. So it's got a kind of a harmonish tune, nice mids. I mean, so much has been said about the Tanya that I don't really think I have to say a lot, but we basically know that Tanya is a kind of a reference in terms of a small form factor earbud of this style. It's got a very nice mids, nice bass. It could be a little bit faster, but not really a problem. Mids are nice and relaxed, a little bit laid back perhaps, or a little bit recessed with regards to male voices. But I mean, nothing really dramatic. I mean, we're talking $18, $19, $20 for this, so let's not complain. But otherwise, it's able to give us a very nice sound. Very simple. Technicalities are what they are. One of the things that the Tanya does have nice is it scales very nicely. You can give it a lot of power, and the more power you give it, actually the better it starts sounding. And it's overall a very enjoyable IM. Very, very simple. It's a very enjoyable IM. How does the Vesna compare to it? Well, straight away, the one thing that you do see that the Vesna does better than the Tanya is it has more high frequency response. Let's put it that way, more energy. That area around the 6 and then around the 13K area, you can notice it straight away. It's very noticeable, and you can see, I mean, let me just try and focus. You can see that area there, the Vesna does do a better job than the Tanya. The mids, I would say they're about the same, although sometimes I get if in the Tanya you never get a sense of sibilance, at least I don't. In the Vesna you do occasionally in the female voices get a little bit of sibilance. Technicalities wise, I actually think that the detailed retrieval on the Vesna is superior. I mean, not drastically superior, but it is superior. It does a nice job of you know, retrieving minor little details in songs and so on and so forth. So overall, it actually fares pretty well against the Tanya. That's the reality. That she does quite well. I'm not gonna say that it doesn't, because it does. So I then decided, hold on, let's get another, let's say, crowd favorite, and I'm talking about, of course, Moondrop Quarks. Again, micro, little small little earbud, a bullet style, 6mm driver as opposed to the 7mm on the Tanya. So I got that one out, and let's put the graph of this one up. So number 5, and let's just change the color so we can actually see it better. But let's make it red. Okay. And straight away, when you look at the graph, you see that there are definite similarities between the Quarks and the Tanya. Very similar in the way they graph. They got that kind of peak at, well, the Tanya is at around 3 point something K, the Quarks at around 2.8, 2.9K, but they've both got that peak there, and then it's, you know, they start tapering off nicely. Definitely the Tanya has more energy up top, not much, but it has more energy, and it has a lot more bass energy as well. You could consider the Tanya to be, well, probably the cheapest neutralish kind of signature that you can get. It's very balanced, very laid back, very easy to listen to. I mean, the thing costs $13. You can't expect the world from it, but the truth is that it's a very good IEM. For the price, it's very good. It's got a very, like I said, it does nothing wrong and it does nothing tremendously well. It's overall a very pleasant IEM to listen to. And when you listen to it and you compare it straight away to the Vesna, again, you notice that yes, the Vesna kills it in terms of bass quantity and bass quality. It's a quicker bass in the Vesna than it is in the Quarks. It's more impactful, so it will please those of us that like to listen to a little bit of EDM, although, mind you, having said that, the Vesna are no EDM monsters. It scales slightly better than the Quarks as well, and again, having all that extra detail up top shows itself. So I would say that against the Quarks, in my opinion, it's slightly better. Okay, if it's about on equal terms with regards to the Tanya, it is slightly better than the Quarks. So then I decided to, hold on, let's get still another one, and I'm talking about, again, a release which was done recently, which is the FIO JD3. Okay, these are about the same size in terms of overall shell size. They're about the same size as the Vesna. Let me just get them both here so you can see what I mean. So Vesna on the left, JD on the right. So the FIO on the right. It has an 8mm driver. Okay, and fixed cable. This one is the microphone version. Let's get the graph. let's get the graph number 4 here. So number 4, number 4, number 4. Here we go. I'm actually going to take out some of the others ones so that it doesn't get too crowded. So let me take out the quarks, and let me take out the Tanya as well. Okay. So there we go. Let me just actually just balance it out a little bit better as well. Oops, what did I miss? Quark, sorry. 4. Just get this balanced out. There we go. Okay. So there we go. We have the Fire graphed next to the Astrotec. Again, for some reason, and I don't know why, and I also got 2 pairs of the Fios when I received it. It does this funny thing here, and on both pairs, and I've measured them multiple times, and it's not a rig thing. So in terms of bass, they kind of follow each other very nicely. Although being an 8mm driver, the bass is in more. It feels bigger. There's more quantity of that bass. So quality-wise, it's about the same. The rise of the Fio into the mids as well is okay, but then from 2.5K, let's say, onwards, it just, I don't know, it is super dark. Actually, I just made a mistake here. Did I? Yes, no, it's the right one. No, sorry, it's not the right one. It's not the right one. It's actually graph number 3 that I wanted to have put up. Yes. Okay, and I'll explain now what is going on. Okay. So what is the difference between graph number 3 and graph number 4? They both are for the Fio, but I'll explain. Okay. Graph number 3. So this is the standard Fio. Okay. As I was saying, bass almost follows the same, but then it has this peak here at around 5K, 5 something K, that coupled to the fact that it's already rolling off there and it's got that dip, and so it just makes for on the one hand a very dark set, because you don't really notice that energy that shows up in the graph here. Okay, and this here makes it very sibilant, very sibilant, very aggressive, especially when you start cranking up the volume. So what I did, and this is graph 4, I'll put it up. Okay, what I did in graph number 4, which basically maintains itself very similar, is I've added some foam to the nozzle. So it's a little mod that I did, and that foam tamed down that peak nicely, so it maintains itself dark as it was before, but at least now this peak, which was sibilant, is not showing up, so it makes for a more acceptable listen. Overall, the sound of the Fio is very dark. It's a dark sounding IM, probably be an IM which is better suited for those of us that do not like a lot of highs. And like I said, the standard peak or response that it shows here, 12 or 13K, it doesn't manifest itself. Trust me, it does not show itself, because if it showed itself when you were hearing it next to the Astrotec, which is the blue line, you would have felt that energy, that cleanness in the sound, and you don't feel it. It's not there. You could argue, okay, but it's got all that bass. No, it has nothing to do with the bass, because the Astrotec also has all that bass, and you can feel that extra energy that it has up top. So, I mean, when I reviewed it, I didn't really spend a lot of time on the JD, and I maintain what I said about the JD. It's fine, it's good. I guess it will have its people that will like the sound signature and so on and so forth. For me, and compared to what is available in the market, it doesn't make sense. It was not a successful product, or it is not a successful product in my opinion from Fio. It's way too dark. The Astrotec just eats it alive. It's got no chance whatsoever. Okay, and that about, cuts it in terms of what options or what IEMs I thought would make sense to compare with the Astrotec. Out of all of them, and I'm just gonna now just take away the Fio, because it doesn't make sense. I'm just gonna leave the Astrotec. I'm gonna put in the quarks, which is number 5. Put in the quarks, okay. Put in the Tanya, number 2. Okay. Quarks and Tanya. Yeah, that's basically it. So how does it in conclusion stack up next to the quarks and to the Tanya? For me, and for what I listen to, it is a superior IM to the quarks, in the sense that it has a little bit of extra energy in the bass, which complements nicely the style of music I like listening to. With regards to the Tanya, I still consider the Tanya a slightly superior IM. It only loses out to the Astrotec in that energy that the Astrotec has over and above it. I mean, you do see quite a bit of energy there in the Tanya, around 16k or whatever. Whether or not that energy is actually there, or it's a couple of related things, I really don't know, because I don't hear that far. I can hear until about 14.5, 15k, and that's it. So I really wouldn't know. What I do know is that up top, yes, you notice that the Astrotec does have a little bit more energy than the Tanya. That helps out with giving better detailed retrieval. But with regards to the rest, in terms of vocals and instruments and the correctness of the tonality, I consider the Tanya to be slightly superior. In terms of other technicalities like imaging and soundstage, neither are fantastic. Soundstage, I would say that the Tanya is slightly better. Imaging, slightly better for the Astrotec. So kind of a win one, lose the other situation. And that's basically it. I mean, there's not really much to be said here. My only concern with the Astrotec, honestly, has to do with the apparent, well, I'm not going to say it's across the board, but QC does seem to be an issue. I've got, like I say, I've got these two pairs of Tanyas, and I actually bought another 4 for the tips, to be honest. For the tips, not for the filters. And I measured all of them, and the reality is, on all 6 sets, the measurements came out more or less the same. And I did it for the sake of, well, I've got the sets, why not just measure them and see if the QC is there, it's being done. And it is. The QC, the quality control with regards to the Tanyas, for me, is top notch. I can attest to that. Like I said, 6 sets, and they're all graphed very nicely. With regards to the Astrotec, I've got 2 sets. They're graphed totally different to one another. One had bass, the other didn't. The mids was one way, the mids was the other. Nothing to do with what is shown on the package, in terms of the graph. In terms of the graph, when you look at it, it says that it peaks at about 3.5, so an ideal situation, 3.5, and no, it's not peaking there, no way. It's peaking more at like around 5.5. And yeah, as for the quarks, if you want a neutralish sounding IM, again, very good in terms of quality control. I've got a couple of sets as well, which I bought for the sake of just checking out how it was. Fantastic, nothing to be said. Great set. For the money, you really can't go wrong. Like I said, $12–13. You can't go wrong with this. It's a fixed cable, but the fixed cable is actually pretty decent. It's got good size to it. The same thing goes for the fixed cable on the Tanyas. It's also pretty decent. So yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it's an interesting option, this one from Astrotec. It's the first time I actually review a product from them. And my only concern, honestly, again, I say, is just the quality control issue, that you might be lucky to get a good set, and you might be unlucky and you get a set which is not 100%. But like I say, the graph, and I'll show it to you one more time, what I graphed and what they put out as the graph, it speaks for itself. I'll just take it out so you can actually see it better. There you go. That's the graph of what I got. That's the graph that they say it can do. There's a difference there, boys and girls. There's a difference. Alright. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. Take care. See you soon.